What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So what I thought it'd be kind of cool to do in this video is to show you guys the process that we went through to get this old 1965 Cherokee 180s interior from what it used to look like to what it currently looks like now. All right, so let's get started. When you start a project like this, you know, obviously one of the first things that you do is you bring the airplane into the hangar and you start going through everything. I believe what we did was we took the door off first, and then that gave us access to get kind of, you know, to get the seats out. We did the front seat, took out the back seat, then we went through and did all of the panels, the carpets, all of the trim pieces, all of the plastic pieces. We did end up leaving the headliner in there. The customer thought that the headliner was in, you know, good enough shape and just cleaned up a little bit and it would have been fine. There was no tears in it or anything like that, so we just left that in there, but everything else, we completely took all of it out, down to the point where it was just bare metal. It was just like the yokes, the dash, and then just the headliner. And that was pretty much our starting point with this project, you know, is just stripping everything out of there and starting fresh from basically just kind of raw metal. So when you're working with these older airplanes and you start taking all of this stuff out of here and the panels off, one thing that you notice is that, you know, the panels that were in that old Cherokee is from 1965, so that the panels in that old Cherokee were pretty much trash. They were garbage. They were made out of originally they were made out of like a cardboard or whatever it was. But once I started taking them out, they just basically started crumbling and falling apart. So what I ended up doing is just remaking all of those panels out of aluminum. I was able to lay them out on a sheet of aluminum and trace them out and just remake all of those panels. So they're a lot stronger, a lot better quality, and overall just a lot better. And I was pretty happy with the way they turned out. And I think the customer's gonna be pretty happy as well. So the next step in this little project is to get these seat rails painted. We got all the material off, and these are the seats. This is what they look like when you have everything stripped off. It's just a frame here. So what I'm going to do is try to get all this old red paint off of here, put it in the sandblaster. That's what I'm going to do today, is just get all this stuff sandblasted off. Then I'm going to get them hung, and we're going to throw some paint on them. We're going to go with a brown, kind of like a mocha color that's going to match the carpet, and that'll give a nice like flow inch from the seat rails into the carpet, so you don't really, you know, there's not really two different colors there, or at least I hope, you know. so it flows in there nicely. It's not gonna make, I mean, you're not gonna really see it that much, but it's the small things like this that make a difference, you know, in the overall project, in the overall finished project. So that's what I'm gonna do today, put these in the sandblaster, get all this paint off, and then we'll just get them hung and sprayed. So, all right, let's get after it. Step in this process is, now that I got everything all stripped off, got pretty much all the paint off and everything is looking good down to bare metal, I'm just gonna hang them on this rack here and get them ready for paint. Throw a coat of paint on them. Actually I'm gonna prime them up first, and then we'll get a coat of paint on it and see how it looks. Should turn out pretty good. I think I'm gonna be happy, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm gonna have to shut the camera off while I do this. I don't want to get the lens all covered in paint, so I'm gonna do this, and we'll see what the result is. So this is actually the second interior that Watford Aero is gonna be doing as far as interiors go. We did a project before, it was kind of on a whim, and I don't have a lot of footage from that. I do have some photos of what the interior used to look like before we started that project. Let me show you what it looks like after, because I think it turned out pretty good. So the next step in this whole process is coming up with a design idea, kind of like a flow or a theme of what the customer might like for their interior. And so what I ended up doing is, you know, we would sit down and kind of spitball ideas of like different design ideas, you know, come find some different ideas online that we could probably, you know, just kind of mock off of and get a starting point from. And then what I would do is I would just sit down and draw out on my iPad different design ideas, you know, different colors, different layouts, and different things that I thought that they might like. And so I would drop an idea and I would submit that to them, and they would say, okay, this is cool, but we should try this, and maybe change the color here, or maybe, you know, do a different design on the seats or the panels, or maybe put a pocket here, or, you know, whatever. And so we ended up going back and forth a few different times until, you know, we kind of came to an agreement, or, you know, they had picked out a design that they liked. And so we went with that. And then the next step in the process is coming up with, you know, what materials are we going to use. And I gotta say, you know, a huge thanks to Douglas Interiors. They, you know, they're an approved. They got all for aviation. They got all the burn certs and everything. What they did is they sent over some, you know, kind of like sample packets of different materials that they have and stuff, which makes it a lot easier to sit down with the customer and go through and pick out what it is that they want specifically in that airplane. So that's what we did. Once we came up with a design idea and kind of like the colors theme of what they wanted for interior, we just sat down and went through and picked out the exact materials that we were going to use moving forward with that project. So once we had all of the materials picked out, we had the design finalized, the next step in the process was to actually move forward and, you know, take that design and everything and make it a reality. So what I ended up doing with that is I took it to a company down in Dickinson called Queen City Upholstery, and, you know, they were the ones that actually did the first interior that I showed you. They do awesome work, and I highly recommend them. And, you know, what makes it easy is, like, I come up with these designs and then I just email them, take them the materials, take them, you know, the panels that I made and all that stuff, and they always do a really good job. Huge thanks to those guys for making that happen and really helping us out with this project. So we got the interior done and we got it back, and I think, in my opinion, I think it turned out awesome. So let me show you what they came up with. All right, here's the seat. You know, I think it turned out great. It's exactly what we had in mind. The design is fantastic. Had them put the pocket in the back, you know, which is awesome for storage and stuff. You know, the seats frames I did, but I think it's a good color combination and stuff like that. So should be pretty cool. That's what the bottom looks like. And then let me show you the panel. So here's the panel. If you guys remember, we redid all the panels. We redid all of the aluminum, made it a lot better because that other stuff was just, I mean, it was terrible. You know, it was falling apart, but here's how it turned out. Check that out. So what we did with this is we went with the carpet on the bottom, as you can see. You know, it's kind of a basic design. Here, we added a pocket right here. And then what we did is we added a nice little cell phone / pen pocket right here, which is gonna come in super handy. Yeah, I mean, I think it looks fantastic. We'll get the insert painted up, the door, you know, the armrest in here, and it should turn out pretty cool. And then one more thing. This is the carpet we went with. What they did at Queen City Upholstery, which I think is fantastic, is they put this little strip here on there, and I think it's a nice touch, and I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like when it's all put together. So now all I gotta do is gather up all these pieces and get it installed into that plane. So that should be fun. Let's get started. All right, so I think where I'm gonna start is that's a lot of pieces to figure out, but I think what I'm gonna do is just start with the carpet, get it all laid out, get it in there and get it fit, and just see how everything looks. And then what I'll probably do is just go and put the back panel in, kind of the back wall, you know, that's you know, from the rear seat, or I guess to the tail section, and see how that looks, and then maybe just kind of work my way from the back to the front, and yeah, see how it goes. So a lot of the window trim was actually made out of aluminum, but some of the plastic pieces were just old and frail and cracked and needed to be replaced. So I was able to actually find a lot of those plastic pieces. They remake them. They remake a lot of those old plastic pieces for Cherokees for projects like this, but some of it I was able to save and some of it I had to replace. As far as the window trim and all that stuff, I was able to save, you know, pretty much all of that stuff. But what I ended up doing is I just stripped all the paints off of it, cleaned it all up, and then just repainted all of that stuff and made it nice again. And I think it actually turned out pretty good. When I was done with it, it looked brand new again. So I think the customer should be pretty pleased with the results of it, because I thought it looked pretty good when it was completed. looking back at this whole project, I gotta say it's pretty rewarding to take an old airplane like this from 1965, you know, completely gut it out and make it new again. You know, it's a lot of work and there's a lot kind of involved with the process of it, but I think it turned out pretty well. You know, we were able to make it look exactly like the design that the customers had approved in the beginning. You know, the materials were awesome, and a huge thanks to Queen City Upholstery for making that happen, and Douglas Interiors for providing all the materials that we need with the burn search and all that stuff for aviation. So I think the customer is going to be pretty happy with the results, you know, when they see the final project, but I like it. And on that note, I think that's where we're going to call it on this video. So if you guys like what you've seen here and maybe want to have us do an interior or something like that, just get a hold of us and we'd be happy to help you out. So other than that, have a good one and we'll see you on the next one.